was the first to be taken in. Probably the most dramatic execution was that of Streicher, the Gauleiter of Nuremberg and the editor of the anti-Semitic newspaper, Der Stürmer. First of all, he refused to get into his clothes in the cell when they came for him, and they had to forcibly dress him. Then they had to physically drag him from his cell to the execution chamber, and as he came in, he was screaming, "Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler."
As the army hangman tightened the noose around Streicher's neck, Streicher spat at the hangman and declared, "Someday the Bolsheviks will hang you."
Perhaps because of the rush and so forth, it's reported that the executions did not go well, that rather than having their necks broken, the hangmen strangled to death very slowly at the end of the rope. Some reports say that it took as much as 20 minutes for some of these men to die.
The bodies of the 12 hanged men were taken to a crematorium and incinerated. The exact location of their scattered ashes will never be known. The press found out that Goering had cheated the hangman, and they demanded an explanation.
The army was put in an extremely precarious position after Goering killed himself. First of all, they had allowed their chief prisoner to escape the gallows. Secondly, the Russians were claiming that the Americans had deliberately given Goering the poison in order to appease German nationalism at the time, in order to allow Goering to escape the gallows. They had to determine how Goering got the poison. So a three-man commission was appointed to study the circumstances of Goering's death. The commission concluded that Goering had always had the poison with him while in Nuremberg prison. They couldn't answer the question how he brought it into the prison, but the main conclusion was that Goering, subtle individual that he was, had outwitted the American army, and there was no complicity on the part of any U.S. soldier in the prison.
The army investigation was a whitewash. They did not answer exactly how Goering was able to hide the vial of poison, nearly 2 inches long, in his cell or on his body for almost an entire year.
I think that how Goering got the poison was that he had, as a friend at Nuremberg, an American officer. He had cultivated this American officer's friendship throughout the trial. They were both interested in hunting. They were both interested in guns. They were both extroverts. They were both very gregarious. And this American officer succumbed to Goering's charm. In fact, he often boasted about his friendship with Goering. And I believe that Goering probably cultivated this officer deliberately, because Goering brought with him into the prison the poison with which he killed himself. It was in Goering's baggage, in the prison baggage room. Now, this was a room into which Goering had no access unless he was escorted by an American officer. I theorize that what happened is in the last days when Goering knew that he had to hang, he called on his American friend and told him, "Lieutenant, I know I have to die, but don't let me be hanged." It could have been that he asked the lieutenant to retrieve it for him, or it could have been more likely that he asked the lieutenant to take him into the baggage room and simply turn your back for a minute. And Goering retrieved the poison from the baggage room, from his luggage, took it back to the cell, and used it the next day.
One Army officer had both motive and opportunity to help Goering, Lieutenant Jack Tex Wheelis.
Wheelis had several items that obviously came from the baggage room. He had one of Goering's wristwatches. It was inscribed on the back with Goering's name. He had a solid gold fountain pen with Goering's name inscribed. Several other valuable gifts. However, I don't think there could possibly be any bribery, because Wheelis, with the key to the baggage rooms, could have taken these things without Goering's permission, without Goering's knowledge. Goering must have known he was wearing the wristwatch, because he wore it there at the Nuremberg trials. He showed it to people. He openly displayed it. And to many people, he bragged about his friendship with Goering. I think that if Wheelis helped Goering, it was because he did not want to see his friend hang. It was not a matter of bribery.
Jack Wheelis never confessed to giving Goering the cyanide. Wheelis passed away in 1954 and took with him the answer to the mystery of Hermann Goering's suicide. Some have argued that because Goering had the power to decide his own fate, his suicide invalidated all of the work and the value of the lengthy trials. But the point of the Nuremberg trials was not just to bring the guilty to justice. The proceedings put down on paper a complete record for all the world to see of the horrors created by Hitler and his henchmen.